members of the Malacanang Press Corps, I apologize for calling you to report today, for calling for this laging handa. We may have disrupted your Valentine's celebration. But just the same, happy Valentine's to you, all of you. Although a lot of us here are in blue, so it's a blue Valentine's for a lot of us here. President Rodrigo Roa Duterte on Monday, Feb 10, met the country's local chief executives to assure that the national government remains on top of the threat of the coronavirus and is prepared to handle all public emergency. COVID-19 is a virus outbreak which originated in China, but we wish to point out that that is something that needs to be resolved by all of us. For this week alone, the Presidential Communications Operations Office has spearheaded a gathering of different line agencies of the government to collate the best practices of each agency regarding the novel coronavirus 2019 or COVID-19, to have a strong and united message so the public will have right information about this global health scare. Now, for our members of the Chinese press, the ambassador, I know that you've been expecting the ambassador to be here, ambassador of China to be here in our press conference, so he sent his regrets that he couldn't make it to this press conference. But then again, you can just communicate with the ambassador straight through his public information officer at the Chinese embassy. As a matter of fact, they were prepared already. They sent their video materials here, but unfortunately, he couldn't make it. Having said this, it is my pleasure to welcome our two distinguished guests on Valentine's Day, Health Secretary Francisco Duque and Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, to discuss their respective action response. Okay, first we shall have Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles. You may have the floor now, sir.
Thank you very much, Secretary Martin Andanar, Secretary Francisco Duque III, Yusek Rocky, to our members of the Malacanang Press Corps, the other members of the media, our foreign correspondents, and the general public following this briefing. Happy Valentine's po sa ating lahat. Magandang tanghali po. As you all know, the other day, President Rodrigo Duterte went on TV urging our kababayans to remain calm, vigilant, and responsible in the face of the growing anxiety felt by everyone because of the COVID-19 virus. The President likewise assured the public that the government is working with the World Health Organization, with medical organizations and other partners in the private sector to address the threats posed by this public health concern. We recognize that providing the public with timely, accurate, and relevant information about the virus and government efforts to contain it are necessary to assuage the fears of our people. In this regard, we would like to thank DOH Secretary Francisco Duque III for joining us this morning to provide updates on the measures they are spearheading to monitor and contain COVID-19, as well as all the other agencies that have provided input for today's briefing, such as the Department of Trade and Industry, the Department of Finance, the Department of Tourism, the National Economic and Development Authority, the Department of Science and Technology, to name a few. The involvement of various departments is part of our whole-of-government approach to manage the overall impact of the virus and to mitigate its negative effects on areas like our economy. This is why government monitoring efforts are not just focused on the virus per se, but on keeping a close eye on the effects of changes in behaviors as a response to COVID-19, This in order to be able to mobilize our resources and respond properly, promptly to the needs of our people. In other words, government is taking a hands-on approach to handling this issue and will be proactive in making the necessary interventions to maintain our current trajectory, particularly with regard to the economy, which was recently given a vote of confidence as reflected in the recent Fitch Outlook upgrade. While COVID-19 is expected to impact the global economy, we believe that achieving our 2020 growth target of 6.5% is possible, as the effects are usually short-lived and generally affect only the first quarter. Recent history has shown that the Philippine economy is resilient given its robust domestic demand and production. We are riding on a strong growth momentum with our GDP growth accelerating to 6.4% in the fourth quarter of 2019, from 6.0% in the third quarter. Last year, notwithstanding external headwinds of heightened global trade wars and geopolitical tensions, the Philippines managed to record a 5.9% GDP growth for the whole of 2019, making it one of the fastest growing economies in Asia. Its vibrant domestic demand is spearheaded by the government's ramp-up infrastructure spending thanks to the Build, Build, Build program. The country's merchandise export performance has also been positive, posting an impressive double-digit year-on-year growth, or plus 21.4% last December. On the production side, both industry and services sector were major contributors to the country's economic growth, and the country's labor market is becoming healthier with record low unemployment. That was 5.1% in 2019, and with 1.3 million new jobs generated last year. Poverty incidence is also at a record low at 16.6% in 2018. In this context, it is likely that the Philippine economy will exhibit a strong recovery from the temporary effects of COVID-19. There's a consensus that even if the first quarter GDP growth will slow down, mitigating measures, quick responses, and low mortality rates will not hurt productivity. Domestic demand is still growing, and we have a big domestic economy. We are not as heavily dependent on the rest of the world compared to our other neighboring countries, and this implies that the economic momentum would allow the country to sustain its growth trajectory towards meeting the full-year GDP growth target range of 6.5% to 7.5% in the near term and over the medium term. Concerns have been raised over the impact of COVID-19 on tourism. The DOT estimates 42.9 billion pesos in foregone revenue up to April of this year. This, however, is still just a fraction compared to the annual inbound tourism revenue, which in 2018 was actually 441 billion pesos, and from January to November 2019 was 458 billion pesos. Note that in 2018, the country earned 3.2 trillion pesos in total from domestic expenditure. Therefore, there is a lot of opportunity to cushion or even compensate for the economic impact through domestic tourism. The DOT and the tourism sector, with the support from the President, will roll out exciting domestic tourism programs that will offer lower prices for airline fares within the country and hotel and resort accommodations across our tourist destinations. We invite everyone to explore the hidden gems in the Philippines and to discover places you've never been to in our country. If, however, our partners in the tourism sector and other sectors continue to be adversely affected, there are available government lending programs offered by Land Bank and the Development Bank of the Philippines. Land Bank offers the CARES program or Calamity Support Program, which includes rehabilitation via loan restructuring and providing loans to SMEs. The basic terms are a 6% fixed rate for the first 2 years or first 5 years for long-term loans, subject to annual repricing thereafter. Allow me to stress, however, that the Land Bank is open to lowering the rate if warranted. The DBP, on the other hand, has the Response Program, a rehabilitation financing program that is usually used for disease infestations that result in significant socio-economic damages, but one that can also be applied in the current situation. The program provides for more relaxed terms, a reduced equity requirement of up to 5% of project cost, and a reduced margin to 1%. Another growing concern is the apparent shortage of face masks in the market. Through the efforts of DTI, our local manufacturer of face masks have committed to supply 1.6 million N88 face masks for the next 4 weeks to meet the growing demand. This is expected to supply not just the general public needs, but also the needs of DOH and the Red Cross as well. DTI is also encouraging other firms to manufacture face masks, and through its board of investments can offer incentives such as 4-year income tax holiday, and duty-free importation of capital equipment. While we have yet to report a single case of COVID-19 being transmitted to a Filipino within our shores, we are ready to test all potential carriers to prevent local transmission of this disease. The DOST reports that a local health technology company of Filipino scientists has developed a local diagnostic kit that can test if a patient is positive for COVID-19. Being locally produced, the test kit will cost almost half of what is currently available. With the support of DOST and the DOH, we hope to be able to expedite the validation process with the WHO so that as soon as it is validated, we can make these local test kits available for all hospitals for use under physician's discretion. The President has emphasized the need for the trust, cooperation, and support of all our citizens as we face this challenge. As long as we are vigilant, prepared, and united in efforts to combat this disease, we are confident that we will overcome this threat. Maasahan nyo na ang buong makinarya ng gobyerno sa pangunguna ng Department of Health ay mabilis na kumikilos upang tugunan ang kasalukuyang sitwasyon. Maraming salamat po.
Secretary Duque.
Secretary Martin Andanar of the PCOO, Secretary of the Cabinet, Secretary Carlo Nograles, and our friends from the media and the press corps in particular. Allow me first to greet all of you in behalf of the Department of Health. Indeed, happy Valentine's Day. And likewise, in behalf of the IATF or EID, or the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Disease, and in particular COVID-19, to share with you today the COVID-19 updates. As of February 14, there are 191 patients under investigation cases currently admitted in various health facilities, while 260 PUIs have been discharged. As of yesterday, 252 PUIs have tested negative for the 2019, or rather for the COVID-19, while 186 have pending test results from RITM. I wish to reiterate that we do not have any confirmed case of the COVID-19 in the country as of the moment. But I need to mention this time and again. It's perhaps not a question of if, but rather a question of when. So that's why we cannot afford to let our guards down despite the fact that we still don't have local transmission. And in fact, all three cases have been clearly established to be imported ones. Two of those that tested positive were discharged, and the other one expired. While there is no recorded case, again, of local transmission in the country, we can already see this happening in nearby countries such as Japan, Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore, among others. These developments propel us to gear up for a possible community spread. The Department of Health is at the forefront of assessing the situation and making evidence-based decisions to ensure that we keep the threats of the COVID-19 at bay. Thank you very much, and this is all for the updates.
Okay, MPC questions? Jinky.
Good morning, sir. Kay Cabsec po. Sir, since we have travel ban po, could we reiterate kung ano yung maaaring maitulong ng gobyerno, kung ano yung maipoprovide sa mga Filipinos for assistance?
Yes, for OFWs who were affected by the travel ban, the Department of Labor and its attached agencies have prepared, assistance packages for those who were affected. No, some of them have actually already received the 10,000 pesos assistance from the Department of Labor and Employment, and we're also preparing. They're also set to give assistance such as livelihood assistance kits, training, and training for those who wish to come up or establish their own livelihoods or businesses here in the Philippines. The alternative also is to redeploy them elsewhere. So again, the Department of Labor and Employment, together with its attached agencies, have been looking for other destinations or other areas wherein these OFWs who were affected can also be redeployed if it is suitable to them and suitable to their area of work or their experience. If naman siya, kung angkop naman dun sa kaalaman at kakayahan at skills ng ating mga kababayan na OFWs, pwede siya ma-redeploy. So, nandun pa rin yung options na yan na binibigay natin sa ating mga kababayan.
Sir, dyan lang sa redeployment, how would they know, sir, let's say, kung paano sila ma-redeploy sa iba kasi affected sila nga ng travel ban doon on a certain countries na meron tayo sa list. So, paano malalaman ng OFW that they will be, ma-redeploy nga sila on a certain
Kasi yung
areas?
DOLE, pati yung kanyang kasamahan, mga attached agencies nila, have been in touch naman with the OFWs who were affected. So, i-assess nila dun anong needs ng OFW na yon, di ba? So, kung gusto niyang magtayo ng sariling negosyo, meron po tayong kit para dyan at may livelihood tayong bibigay. Ngayon, for redeployment, syempre, bibigyan natin ng options. No? Depending so, part of the assessment is to look at anong skill set niya, ano yung dati niyang trabaho noon. Tapos ano yung available din, no? At saan yung mga destinations, mga bansa kung saan siya pwedeng ma-redeploy. So depends, no? It's not a one size fits all. Syempre it depends on the assessment per OFW na affected.
Sir, one last lang po. Do you advise Filipinos to stay in the Philippines instead of traveling abroad while the spread of the virus is yet to be controlled?
I think at this moment, we're trying to promote domestic tourism also in the country. So I think if we could advise also mga kababayans natin na yes, you can help it, then yung travel na lang domestically, meaning to say within the Philippine shores, will help our domestic tourism, will help the tourism market, will also help the tourism sector, and will also help the Philippine economy. So, kung maaari, dito na muna sa bansa kasi marami pa naman mga destinations na pwedeng puntahan.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Arian?
Kay Secretary
bring them into the fold so that we will have a much better capacity to do the COVID testing.
Okay, sir. Sir, last na lang. Confirm ko lang, sir. As of now, do we have enough test kits for COVID-19? And ito pa rin po ba yung from Japan?
The one that the stocks that came from Japan, we have 3,000 tests capacity. The WHO has given another 3,000, so we have now 7,000. And so far, the testings, the total number of tests done would be about, say, about 500. So we do have sufficient buffer, stock of test reagents and the chemical which is known as the RNA primer.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Francis. And then- Microphone, please.
Sec Nograles, good morning po. Tatanungin lang namin kasi kahapon sa press briefing ni Sec Panelo, tatanungin raw niya si Presidente about yung travel ban sa Taiwan. Nakapag-meeting na ho ba yung Interagency Committee na nagdi-deal sa coronavirus kung malilift na nga po yung travel ban kasi may mga concerns yung mga OFWs natin na nakapagbayad na, babiyahe na, yung iba uuwi, hindi makauwi. So ano pong update doon sa travel ban, sir?
I'll pass the mic to Secretary Duque because siya yung sasagot doon sa ano.
Thank you, Sec Nograles, and to the one who threw in the question, Francis. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, we will be convening the interagency task force on COVID-19. And one of the major issues that will be deliberated upon will include the travel ban that has included lately the Taiwan. And we are aware of the sentiments of the Taiwan government vis-a-vis the travel ban, and all of these will be considered in our deliberations and hopefully come up with a consensus, not just to address specifically the issue on the Taiwan having been included in the travel ban, but also a more broad consideration of factors that will help the task force formulate a set of criteria or parameters in so far as inclusion or exclusions is concerned. So that is what we will wait for. Whatever consensus the task force arrives at, we will share with the media as soon as possible.
Okay, Sec. Pero sa ngayon ba masasagot niyo, sir, kung ano ba talaga ang naging pinaka-reason kung ba't naging travel ban? Kasi may parang certain confusion kung bakit nga sinama ang Taiwan. Kasi kahapon sa press briefing, tinanong rin namin sa panelo na bakit po ang ibang countries like Singapore, mas mataas po ang cases unlike sa Taiwan. So masasagot ho na ba nyo yan para yung mga OFWs naman na may confused ba't nangyari ho yung travel ban na yun?
Siguro po ang kumpletong sagutan dyan, mangyayari mamaya, matapos ang task force. But preliminarily, the reason, and the only reason I should like to believe, that has been considered in including Taiwan in the travel ban is really nothing else than public health and safety. That is the only consideration.
Okay, can we have our friend from?
I have a question to Secretary Negrales. Chinese government now is making great efforts to fight against the epidemic. So, do you have confidence with Chinese economy? And China and the Philippines have many projects in cooperation. What the Philippine government will do to guarantee that the projects or at large the Philippine economy is not to be influenced?
Well, we obviously recognize China as one of our leading trade partners of the Philippines. And we hope that China will be able to get back to its usual business, even given the challenges that your country is facing right now. We're confident that you will be able to overcome these challenges. And I think the sooner that China overcomes these challenges, the better for the rest of the world, because China is a leading trade partner for different countries as well, not just the Philippines. But speaking for the Philippines, I think it's important that we all support, China getting back on its feet, and it's also important that we continue our good relations in terms of economic trade, and beneficial relations for the both of us, for both of our countries. So we hope for the best, and we're confident that China will be able to bounce back from the challenges that are facing your country.
Okay, thank you. Pia? Then Mela.
Secretary Duque, sir, the WHO yesterday said that in Hubei province, medical professionals can now classify suspected cases via chest imaging, making monitoring and reporting cases much faster. So do we have talks with WHO if the same mechanism can be adopted here for faster classification, sir?
Well, that's very difficult to answer. For one, we still don't have any local transmissions, okay? But looking forward, and hopefully it doesn't happen, but it's best to really always level up in case the worst scenario does happen. So what is paramount insofar as providing clinical best practice management of individual COVID-19 cases is concerned? We will look into that development from the China medical care system that raised this issue. It's very interesting, but I do not have the details of such. But in the concept seems to be very, very good.
Thank you, sir.
Mela. Then Ian.
For Secretary Duque. Sir, the DOH has issued an advisory on concerts, public events, and other mass gatherings. To set the record straight, is this advisory recommendatory in nature? And yun nga po, nabanggit nyo kanina, Valentine's Day today. Paano kaya, sir, yung mga may plano na at matagal nang nakapag-organize ng mga concerts and other public events?
Well, the advisory is purely recommendatory, okay? But we have not been short of giving other supplemental, if not complementary, advisories. Like if you're in a hotel, there's a gathering there, a convention perhaps. The hotel makes sure that there is enough supply of disinfectants in almost every corner, if possible. People can just press the dispenser to use that. On top of the fact that you are also encouraged, in support of personal hygiene, to wash your hands properly. Wash your hands as frequently as possible. And there is no danger doing that. Everything to gain. And of course, all the other advisories from the DOH, you have to take this not independently of one another, but in the whole gamut of advisories that has been given by the DOH will have to be followed to support our efforts, our overall efforts and strategy to prevent the spread. Not just of the COVID-19. Hindi lang po usapin COVID-19 ito. Kundi marami din po tayong mga mikrobyo. We have viruses and bacteria. They abound in the environment. So you have Streptococcus pneumoniae. That is a common cause of community-acquired pneumonia. Then you have the Klebsiella pneumonia, Haemophilus influenza. And that's just talking about the bacteria. Let's shift very quickly naman to the viruses. We have the influenza A virus. You remember the pandemic AH1N1 of 2009. So, yan. Now, that's already part of the circulating viruses. And then you also have the influenza virus B. So, it will help us if at the top of our minds is the consciousness really to be very mindful of personal hygiene.
Opo. Sir, just a quick follow-up. Given your that statement po, paano yun, what's the best way po kaya to celebrate Valentine's Day? Do you advise na stay at home na lang po?
The best greeting is like this. Or if you want the namaste, you just so, or flying kiss. When you do the flying kiss, make sure it doesn't touch your lips. And you also don't talk while you are delivering the kiss. Okay? Airborne delivery of the kiss. Not to say that the COVID is airborne. It is not airborne. It is via respiratory droplet. Still is the mode of transmission.
Okay, thank you, Mela. Ian, then Mr. Melo, and Alvin. Microphone, please.
Hello. For Secretary Duque. Secretary, may update na po ba tayo regarding dun sa plan ng interagency task force regarding dun sa mga Filipino crew of Diamond Princess? What will happen to them after the quarantine period? Will they be allowed to go home directly to the Philippines, sir?
That will be a subject of deliberations later in our task force together with DOLE. We want the private sector, but I still don't have sufficient information to make any recommendation later on. But as soon as this press con concludes, I will go back to really find out whether the crew of about 570 plus Filipinos who are reportedly coming back to the Philippines, I would like to know the private sector role in this. Because if there's an agency, for example, or if there is an entity that should take care of them, I would like to propose that the responsibility, should quarantine be required, be shared with that private entity.
Pero sir, would you recommend quarantine, another week of quarantine or 2 weeks of quarantine here in the Philippines?
Well, this is something that we have yet to discuss. We're getting in touch with the WHO and our own local experts on the matter. In fact, I spoke with former Secretary of Health, Manolet Dairit, who is an epidemiologist, and he has committed to make time for us to discuss this so that we can plan this very well and making sure that there is no stone left unturned as we plan and execute whatever is the best option that we arrived at eventually.
Apo. Secretary, for both of you, sir, no, meron pong statement si Senator Lacson. Ang sabi po niya, just like the termination of VFA, the Philippine government's travel ban to Taiwan is a policy decision implemented by the Executive Department which may not necessarily be correct, health-wise and politically. Ano pong reaksyon ninyo?
Well, I think health-wise, I think every Filipino citizen naman siguro would agree that we have to take care of the general welfare and health of the people. And doing this travel ban is one step and one way where we are able to address those concerns. No, I think it's a better way for us to manage the situation right now. And so far, because of the travel ban, I think the results will speak for itself. We've been able to contain the problem. We've been able to manage it better. And I think we stand with that decision.
Thank you, Sec. Carlo. With regard to the statement, that is the reason why we have been holding our interagency task force meetings, because we need to make recommendations based on the evidence-based risk assessment that we do periodically. So ngayon, we have a graphical representation of the trend in terms of rates of increases of new cases in the countries where the COVID-19 has spread. So we're nimble. There's no such a thing as cast in stone. We are flexible, but the primacy of public health and safety is always our consideration. So there you are.
Secretary, totoo po ba yung mga reports na against daw po ang Chinese ambassador sa lifting ng travel ban sa Taiwan?
I am not aware. There has been no report of such to my office.
Kay Secretary Nograles, sorry po, may phone-in question. Ano daw po ang effects sa remittances ng COVID-19?
So yung aming ginawang cluster, pinag-aaralan namin ang lahat ng mga effects no sa economy. At dun sa remittance, we'll get the figures next week. So may tasking po kaming ginawa para malaman kung ano ba yung magiging projected figures. Although may nabasa ako na may isang grupo, think tank, na gumawa na ng preliminary estimates, no? Pero siguro mas magandang ma-validate din natin yun sa numero din na hawak ng ating government agencies. Next week po, meron po kaming mabibigay na mas accurate na numero dun sa effect ng COVID-19 sa remittances. But these are just estimates, no? I just like to make that clear now. Hanggang estimates lang tayo, just so that we are better prepared, no, to handle whatever negative effects. Tapos i-mitigate natin or put in mitigating measures para hindi naman ganun ka lala ang maging epekto nito sa ating ekonomiya at para sa ating mga kababayan.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Mr. Melo Acuña. Then Tina and Aryan.
Morning, Secretaries. Melo Acuña from Asia Pacific Daily. For Secretary Duque, would you know if the Chinese embassy and other embassies have implemented measures to protect their nationals in the country? Would you be aware if they have already organized clinics to attend to their needs, to their citizens' needs? And number two, would the Philippines and China be cooperating in terms of research and data sharing? Because we very well know that WHO and DOH are in close coordination and collaboration. So would you tell us about the level of cooperation between China and the Philippines? Thank you.
Well, to answer the first part of your question, whether the embassies, and in particular Chinese embassy, has already extended services for its people here in the country, like clinics perhaps. There's none, because we are not discriminating anyone from the care that everyone so deserves, especially in these most trying times. So that if you look at our list of patients under investigation, this is an assortment of foreigners, Chinese, Filipinos, etc. So we do not discriminate in much the same way that they too do not discriminate. As you can see in Japan, in this international conveyance, the MV Princess that is docked off Yokohama Bay, they give care to everyone. So I think that should be maintained. And then the next part of your question is the level of cooperation between the Philippines and China, for example. Does that match the level of cooperation that now exists between China and the WHO? Well, I think the fact that China has relatively been more open about the COVID-19, and this has been recognized by the WHO, I think the potential for stronger collaboration, cooperation is there in terms of galvanizing countries, first world countries, to do research, say, to address treatment, to address vaccines, These are all already being contemplated. But again, we have to look at the details, if any, of such evolving cooperation and collaboration in the area of research.
Thank you. For Secretary Nograles, Secretary, would you care to comment on a report about 3 Filipinos going to the ICJ complaining about the alleged arbitrary prevention or suspension of flights between China, Macau, and Hong Kong as it may affect their livelihood? Thank you very much.
No, I'm not aware.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Paano na?
3 workers
No.
filed a case with the ICJ.
No, I'm not aware. That's
Thank
news
you.
to me.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Alvin?
Secretary Duque, good morning po. Secretary, the World Health Organization has said that there are tentative signs that COVID-19 is stabilizing. What does this mean, Secretary? Malapit na bang matapos yung krisis sa nCoV?
Well, I don't want to be a KJ, but it's premature. We've seen some initial trending, but it's not consistent. So we have to wait for more data to come in and to establish a trending that's more consistent. Whether it's plateauing, is it going down, etc. So still, the situation remains fluid. Thank you.
Secretary, follow-up lang. Dito sa nararamdaman natin lamig, lalo na pagka-umaga, pagdating ng gabi, pagka dumating ba yung summer season, makakatulong ito para at least hindi lumaki yung cases ng o yung spread ng nCoV?
You know, apart from anecdotal reports, there is really no hard science to support that it may actually, well, let me take that back. They're saying that it will be difficult to inactivate the virus, the COVID-19, under low temperature and low humidity. So in the Philippines, there's relatively high humidity and high temperature. How is the COVID-19 going to behave under such environmental conditions? Nobody really knows for sure, because as they say, yung mga spread relatively in cold countries, okay, Japan, Australia, Canada, etc. But you have Singapore down south. That's warm. Temperature is relatively similar to ours, but now they're the number 2 with the highest number of cases, but still double-digit number or burden of cases. So the virus really presents, the challenge here is that the blind spots continue to characterize this virus. And the efforts to familiarize ourselves with this virus is ongoing. And so science has never been more active than it is today, precisely to continue to characterize the very granular aspects of this virus.
Okay, thank you. Ina, and then Tina and Pia. Microphone, please, Alvin.
Secretary Duque, you just mentioned yung a lack of more consistent trend that could determine if nag-stabilize na po yung situation. Is there a specific observation period, I don't know, 2 weeks, a month, that you would be monitoring to kumbaga, say eventually that we can relax a little bit, or what? And what factors would you be looking at during that period, if there is one?
Clearly, the factors to be considered would be the data stream that comes in. So, like what is now the rate of increase of new cases in Hubei province, and then for the entire China, okay, and the same should apply to the other countries where the COVID-19 has spread to about 24, 25 countries. So this is what will help us determine whether there has been a better, the results are getting better, the situation, the conditions are getting better. So yun lang, there's really not much.
So it's not really about monitoring yung case natin dito because now we're saying wala na right now na confirmed cases and there's no local transmission. Those factors are not enough for us to say if okay na tayo. Kumbaga, we're dependent on data pa rin from the other countries.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's no way that just because we don't have local transmission, many countries, 11 have already reported local transmissions, and so who are we to say that we won't have local transmission? So the important thing is we cannot afford to let our guards down. We need to be very, very ready in the event that this local transmission does happen.
Last lang kay Secretary Nograles naman, you mentioned that effects to the economy may posibleng lang magkaroon ng effects sa economy in the first quarter. Is that an expression maybe of optimism that, I don't know, the travel ban may not go beyond March?
Well, yes, it's an expression of optimism. We hope that we are able to control the situation even more. We hope that by the first quarter, things would start to taper off. Again, it's a sense of optimism. We're hopeful. Now, the primary action right now of government is to control the spread of the disease, to be able to hopefully catch it or contain it, and do all of the medical protocols so that we'll be able to, hopefully by the end of the first quarter, see the tapering of the negative effects of the COVID. No, but be that as it may, the task force under Secretary Duque will continue to do their regular briefings and coordination meetings. Our cluster will continue to monitor the economic effects of COVID-19. No? So Secretary Duque will take care of the health aspect. Kami naman, our cluster will take care of the economic aspect. That way, we're all prepared, no, to manage the situation. Because there are a lot of variables kasi. Maraming hindi natin makontrol, but there are marami ring aspeto na kaya nating kontrolin. So kung anong pwede nating kontrolin from management. Hello. Yung kung ano ang kaya natin kontrolin from a management perspective, gagawin natin and make sure na walang no stones unturned. Gagawin natin, we cover all bases para pagdating ng mga hindi natin inaasahan na mga bagay, then we're more prepared to react. No? So both from a medical and health standpoint and as far as the economic standpoint is concerned. Ganon din.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
last two, Tina and Pia. Last four. Tina, pahiram ng microphone.
Sir, Secretary Duque, from our reporter in Isabela, in Cagayan, meron daw couple from Beijing who refused to be hospitalized. In 14th day na yata nila kahapon, wala naman daw silang nararamdaman. Nagstay lang sila sa bahay. Ano raw ba dapat ang policy ganun? Pag ayaw ng couple or ng tao, pwede nang hindi subject ng check-up?
Galing po ba ito sa
Beijing?
Sa Beijing. I would like to invite in Dr. Thea, of the Epidemiology Bureau, to comment.
So magandang umaga po. As to, it is a part of our protocol that all patients under investigation should really be isolated. But yes, we are encountering some challenges in convincing them. I think we are addressing that already by doing our best to fully explain what is the effect if they don't allow themselves to be isolated, and what is the public health impact of not them being isolated. For some, we have patients under investigation who we identified already beyond the 14-day quarantine period. Halimbawa, dumating po sila, they arrive here January 31. So, exactly today is their 14 days. So, if you find them after the 14th day, what do we do? So, we make sure, are they symptomatic as of now? And then just to be very sure, we also collect specimens and we send these to RITM so that this will be tested. Now, until those tests come back negative, we make sure, we advise them that they should still be under home quarantine, so that if ever these tests come back positive, will limit their transmission. So I think the regional office under our director, Rier Magpantay, has done his best to collect these specimens already, and we'll have an update on that, sir.
So that's regarding the case in Isabela, ma'am? Particular case.
Yes po. Ongoing na po yung pakikipag-usap po. I think Region 2 has one of the highest numbers of patients under investigations, mostly because they have international flights. So
This particular couple already submitted their specimen.
we will follow up po, but we have already instructed our regional epidemiology and surveillance unit to follow them up, and even if they're already beyond the quarantine period, to still collect those specimens and to advise this couple that they should remain on home quarantine until those specimens come back negative.
What happens po if this suspected PUIs remain parang they won't cooperate with the DOH?
Those are things that we are actually discussing yesterday. So, what are the regulatory authority of the Department of Health to really oblige them? No, these are things that is actually included in one of our new laws. Sir, if I may, we have a new Republic Act. It's the mandatory reporting of notifiable diseases. It's RA 11332, and under one section states that if you do not cooperate, for example, these are patients under investigation, they should really be isolated. They should be isolated in a health facility. Under that Republic Act, the Department of Health and its partner agencies have the authority to actually oblige them to be isolated because it's a public health concern. No? And we should do our best to limit possible transmission from these PUIs.
Can they be bodily carried out of their homes and brought to hospitals?
Well, yes, sir. But of course, we do our best not to do that. I think, like I mentioned earlier, it's a simple matter of explaining to them why the need. I think for a lot of our patients under investigation, it's the fear and anxiety. Why are they being isolated? What's going on with them? But after explaining to them what's the purpose of isolation and testing, most of them, more than almost all of them, will agree that, in fact, at times they're the ones already insisting that, oh, when are you going to transport me to the hospital? So proper communication, effective communication will really help in management of these PUIs.
Thank you po. Another question po. Sir, based on recent briefing ng DOH, there are like around 100 Chinese, 18 Americans, and other nationalities who are considered PUIs. Meron po bang bagong statistics? And number two, how's the budget of the DOH in addressing these issues? Are we using regular budget, or then habang wala pa yung supplemental budget, meron pang infusion?
Yeah. Well, for the nationalities admitted as patients under investigation, we have 280 Filipinos, accounting for 62%, Chinese 99%, 22%, others 76%, which accounts for 17%. So yung budget, we're okay so far, so good. We're using the the Quick Response Fund, and also the Medical Assistance to Indigent Patients Fund. So as of today, it's been manageable. The funding requirement hasn't posed any serious problem.
So do you have the number in yung affected individuals, not by percentage?
We have 280 Filipinos, 99 Chinese, and 76 others.
Okay, Pia, Yan, and then last question, Sam.
Kay Secretary Duque, sir, what are the preparations of the DOH in the event of local transmission? And ano pong mga scenario po kaya ang expect ng public? Like, would you recommend the closure of schools? Ganun siya.
Well, there is already a protocol or a set of guidelines that has been issued out to the local government units. In fact, the event last Monday, which the President graced, I was asked to present what are the steps that need to be carried out by the local chief executives, and under their authority, of course, the municipal health officers, the city health officers, the provincial health officers will be in coordination, and to the grassroots level, the reactivation of the barangay emergency health response teams, or the BERTs, no, kung tawagin. So, yan po ang mga responders, assuming there's going to be a local transmission, very much like what happened in 2003. If you recall the SARS event of 2003, andun po sila sa, meron tayong framework kasi, the four-door framework. Kung nag-fail sa surveillance, o yung border surveillance nag-fail, o yung community surveillance nagkaroon ng transmission doon, then we have measures in place and protocols to support the execution of those measures. For example, at the prevention side, we bombard the local government units of the latest advisories, latest reminders on personal hygiene, social distancing, cough etiquette, etc., and also leveling up the capacity to mitigate the impact of, say, patients who might actually already have the COVID acute respiratory disease. So which means the hospitals, the provincial hospitals, referral system is in place. The clinical best practice management of individual COVID-19 patients with ARD, what are the measures being done to ensure they don't slide into deadly complications, no? Local quarantine is also one of those that is being considered, just like what happened during the SARS event of 2003, no? Alcala, Pangasinan, na quarantine yung buong area na yan, just to ensure that the containment measures are strong and effective. And of course, the impact on the communities is a bit disruptive, but that's okay. I mean, they soon realized that this is really needed to prevent the spread of the virus.
Okay, Ms. Yan.
Secretary Duque, what is the basis for the WHO and DOH recommendation on whether or not we have to wear face masks? Because it seems to me that there is no standard recommendation. Some countries are encouraging it, while others discourage it.
Well, I think insofar as we are concerned, I cannot speak for the other countries. Our coordination with the WHO with regard to the use of masks is already embedded in the guidelines that we have issued out. That we do not encourage the use of a mask among people who are not manifesting any symptoms of flu, of coughs, colds, And if there's fever, you would want that particular person to just stay put in his place. But for them to continue to wear the mask so as not to spread, to contaminate others, to infect others in the same household. Okay? Now, the paramount objective is to ensure that in the face of global shortage of masks, N88 masks, surgical masks, we have to be very judicious in the use of such and limiting it to our healthcare workers, the frontliners in the provision of care to patients. So they are at the top of the totem pole of prioritizations. No? So that's very important. In the school, let me just give you a scenario. In a classroom of elementary students, of 40 students, you need a mask? The question is, yes, you need a mask. That's readily available in case a student suddenly develops symptoms of respiratory illness. So you need to isolate, you need to take the child out, give the child the mask, bring the child to the infirmary for further evaluation. And if the indications are there for the child to be sent home, then the child is sent home. Okay? But to see all of the students wearing masks, no, that's not certainly, that's far from any of our recommendations with regard to the use of masks.
Okay, thank you, Yan. Sam, sorry, tatlo na lang pwede natin accommodate. Sam, Henry, and then Vance.
Ay, hello? Kay Secretary Duque lang po. Bali, for now, meron po bang other countries bukod po dun sa four initially countries na na-issuean ng travel ban na kino-consider ang Department of Health na also mabigyan ng travel ban because of the COVID-19?
None as of the moment. So, let's keep it at that.
Tapos yung kay Secretary Nograles po, earlier nung mga past a few weeks ago, nabanggit po nila na isa sa i-consider na factor sa possible lifting of travel ban sa China, yung parang may commitment yung China na isi-secure yung safety ng mga Filipinos dun sa area nila. Meron na po bang nabigay na ganong commitment?
Yes, napag-usapan yung na isa yun sa mga tinitingnan nating factors bago natin i-lift, no? As to yung commitment, we'll have to check with DFA kung may communication to that effect, no? But nung pinag-usapan kasi namin ito with the President, nabanggit nga yun na isa, although it's not the only condition, no? It's one of those factors that will help us determine. Pero ang importante lamang dito is we continue to assess the situation. At gaya ng sinabi ko, it will be on a daily basis. Kaya nga po, laging nagmi-meeting po yung task force ni Secretary Duque, pati sa amin, sa economic side, tinitingnan din namin at regular din pong aming meetings para ma-evaluate natin kung kinakailangan pa bang i-lift, kung kailan i-lift, kung kailangan i-lift. Lahat ng mga yan ay pag-uusapan. But yung sinabi lamang na yung guarantee, no, isa lamang yan sa mga maaring maging factors to take into consideration. But it's not the end-all and be-all. No?
Okay, quick lang ha kasi may meeting si Secretary. Vance and then Henry. Microphone please.
To Secretary Duque, please. Sir, may masasama po ba ang ibang bansa para dito sa travel ban?
Sa ngayon, wala pa po.
Because according to DFA, Teddy Luksin, that he will not support any ASEAN, Singapore travel ban.
I think I've answered it, that there is none at the moment.
Yes, sir. Sir, another issue. Can you give me the latest update on the Bicol that was monitored having this COVID-19? 12 persons?
I'm not aware. That's, I guess, one of the fake news that goes around. So we'll get you in touch via phone of Dr. Thea de Guzman.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Last question, Henry.
Secretary, this is probably your parting statement. Paano ninyo kakausapin ang taong bayan na hindi pa rin maalis ang takot at pangamba na baka sila ay tamaan, mahawahan at maging sanhi ito ng kanilang kamatayan? Itong pinag-uusapan nating COVID-19.
Ang DOH ay hindi na po natutulog sa pagmamatsyag, pagbabantay at ako po ay nagpapasalamat sa lahat ng akin mga kasama sa DOH, ang mga lingkod bayan na talaga pong nakatutok dito. Hindi na po sila nagpapahinga halos. Ang kanilang weekend ay naging weekdays na rin. At tayo po ay so far, wala po tayong local transmission, is somehow a reflection of the great efforts that have been poured into by our professional, dedicated civil servants who have been burning the midnight oil, so to speak, to really get all the best information there is available and to recommend to the Secretary or to the Executive Committee of the DOH measures that will continue to improve where we are right now in responding to the evolving and the threat of the COVID-19. So we reassure our people that the DOH is on top of the situation, and so is the task force. And we have had 4 meetings. Today will be, I think, the 5th meeting, and this is to ensure that we are not lagging behind in terms of mounting an effective response to the COVID-19. And in collaboration with the WHO, which bridges us, the Philippine Department of Health, to the Chinese Ministry of Health, as well as their Center for Disease Control. We are also very much in touch, again, through the WHO, the latest developments to include best practices that have arisen in response to the COVID-19 by the various countries where this COVID-19 has spread. So we are in constant coordination, and the cabinet, the president himself, first and foremost, has readily approved a budget of 2.25 billion for the procurement of adequate supply of personal protective equipment, bearing in mind, of course, that our healthcare workers do get these supplies ahead of everyone because they are the frontline service providers. And the president has made sure that he is made aware of this on a daily basis. And he has articulated his concern for the welfare of the Filipino people, and emphasizing that the primacy of public health and safety cannot be subjugated to any other considerations. Thank you.
Same question, Secretary Nograles. Ano ang katiyakan na ang lahat ng sangay ng gobyerno, lahat ng cabinet members and secretaries, government agencies ay gumagalaw para sa kapakanan ng taong bayan, para hindi na lumala ito at may mga tulong na nakahanda ang pamahalaan?
Yes, gaya ng sinabi ko, meron tayong ina-apply na whole of government approach dito, no? So, dun sa health aspect, nandyan po si Secretary Duque at kanyang task force. Dun sa economic aspect, nandun din po yung cluster namin na tinitingnan yung magiging negative effect nito sa ekonomiya or maaring maging negative effect nito sa ekonomiya. Tapos, paano natin ma-mitigate, ma-neutralize, and to ensure na hindi naman masisira yung targets natin dun sa economic growth targets natin. So, lahat ng sangay, lahat ng ahensya, lahat ng departamento at kagawaran ng gobyerno ay nagsasama-sama, nagtutulong-tulong, nagko-coordinate, no, para dito. Pero siguro ang pinakamalaking factor na hiningi lang po namin ay yung cooperation ng taong bayan. Kasi kahit anong mga gagawin ng gobyerno, mga hakbang, no, anong mga gagawin natin mga measures, anong mga gagawin natin ng mga protocols, kung walang cooperation ang taong bayan at walang yung support ng taong bayan, ay hindi maging ganun ka-successful ang ginagawa natin. At pangalawa, yung sa fake news nga po. Napaka-importante, kaya nga ginagawa namin ito, nagpe-press briefing, ang DOH lagi po rin nagpe-press briefing, lahat ng mga announcements, directives, lahat ng mga advisories ng Department of Health, nandun po sa social media, nasa tri-media, sa lahat ng mga media outlets na maaring ibigay, ay binibigay nila para alam ng taong bayan kung ano ba talaga yung totoong situation, anong totoo at tunay na mga advisories. So maari po itong mga official advisories lamang ng gobyerno mula sa Department of Health. Ito lang po yung basahin natin at i-spread natin. Huwag po natin i-spread yung mga fake news, huwag po natin i-spread yung mga hindi naman verified na mga reports dahil hindi nakakatulong ito. So ito po yung kinakailangan natin sa panahon nito na magkaisa, magtulungan po tayo at wala nang bashing, wala nang politicizing at wala nang spreading of fake news.
Right. Salamat po.
Okay, thank you, Secretary Nograles. Thank you, Secretary Duque. Thank you, media friends. Back to main studio sa Radyo Pilipinas and People's Television Network.